common questions I receive is it safe for girls to travel by themselves here in Costa Rica?
I've spent quite a lot of time moving around by myself during my 6 years here in Costa Rica, and very rarely have I felt unsafe. There are, however, a few points to be aware of before you visit Costa Rica as a solo female traveler. In this video, we will talk about how to stay safe, best ways to get around, things to keep in mind, and a few general tips to make your trip an unforgettable experience.
What's up, guys? I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to the Emma in Costa Rica channel. If you don't know me yet, I'm Emma, and this channel is all about Costa Rica, tips and tricks and travel ideas and all that fun stuff, and a little bit of lifestyle vlogs as well. So if you enjoy that kind of content, or if you're looking for that kind of stuff that has to do with Costa Rica before you're planning your trip to come here, hit that subscribe button and yeah, let's get started. One of the most common questions I receive is it safe for girls to travel by themselves here in Costa Rica? And I am completely satisfied with my answer as to say yes. Because it is a fairly safe country. You know, I feel like the most dangerous things that happen in this country are more so targeted. You see them more frequently when you're actually living here. And that would be like break-ins, pickpocketing is a bit of an issue. Or if you leave your car unlocked, people will see these kind of opportunities. But the thing is, a lot of ticos, Costa Ricans, don't really like to be in altercations where it becomes like a face-to-face situation that's very uncomfortable. So they're not going to do something that's not already easy in that kind of sense. You know, there's bad people everywhere in the world, and yes, there are some. But I personally have not experienced any of that within the 6 years of living here. And yeah, I've traveled quite a bit by myself around the country. Luis works 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I spend a lot of time by myself. And yeah, I've never had any particular issues. So let's talk about some tips and ideas and things to watch out for as girls traveling by yourself in the country. And by all means, let's do this. Tell your parents not to worry too much. You're gonna be okay. And yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing is, of course, something could happen. I can't guarantee whether something is gonna happen or not. Everyone has a different life. But you can also control the situation by not putting yourself into unsafe situations, just as you would in any part of the world. I lived in Toronto, Canada for more than half of my life. And yeah, you don't go down certain streets, you don't interact with certain people, just basic things. And that's going to be the same here too. You just have to use a little bit of your common sense and don't surround yourself with situations that could result in being unsafe or being harmed. So yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, I have been on buses, I've walked around a lot, even during the night, not late at night, but at night I've walked around, and you know me, I've got my camera gear, I've got stuff with me, and I have never been in an awkward situation where someone is trying to threaten me or rob me or take me physically. There's been maybe one situation ever, and it was somebody who was clearly on drugs. And they came up and they were just kind of asking me questions. And this wasn't my first year of living here. And I actually did have camera gear with me. It wasn't mine. But I just told them, I'm working. I have somewhere to be. And they were clearly like, they were mumbling and like mumbling and stumbling. And yeah, that ended up not being anything. They kind of just walked away. And that was pretty much the worst situation I've experienced here in Costa Rica so far. Hopefully nothing bad happens. And yeah, nothing happened. So as long as you know how to deter people in the situation, it's okay. Of course, knowing Spanish is definitely going to help you in these sort of situations. So if you have some Spanish, it's better. You can also get Google Translate, start practicing with Duolingo, all these kind of things. Most of the applications are not going to tell you how to get people away from you, but if you are in a tricky situation, just tell somebody, no tengo nada, I have nothing, or déjame en paz. It's like, leave me in peace, leave me alone, and hopefully they won't get offended by that. But yeah, those are two phrases that you can use to kind of get people away from you. Some of the tips that I'm going to give you guys to have a fun and safe trip here by yourself in Costa Rica is to not try to be by yourself. What you should do is try to stay in hostels, or at least go to visit some of the hostels while you're here if you're staying like in an Airbnb or a different hotel or something like that, because that way you are going to meet people who are like-minded and are also traveling by themselves or with some friends. However it is, meeting people is going to be essential for your trip to make it really fun and a little safer, because then you're always going to have someone watching your back and, you know, watching your bag when you're at the beach going for a dip. Another thing you can do if you are going to the beach by yourself is, if you see other travelers around you, just maybe sit close to them, and if you're going to quickly run into the water, just ask them, like, if they look like trustworthy people, just ask them, like, if they don't mind watching your stuff. I mean, don't rely on that, because, you know, other people on holiday, they're not necessarily going to watch your stuff, but it's better than nothing. So yeah, I've done it before, and people are generally really nice, and they'll just say, oh yeah, no worries, and then you do the same thing for them when they go to the water. So it kind of works. Another thing about Airbnbs is that if you are going to be deciding to stay in a Airbnb or a house, a private villa or whatever by yourself, do your research of where exactly it's located, because you don't want to be in a place that's just in the middle of nowhere, doesn't have good access to things. And yeah, the more lonely you are, the less safe it's going to be in general. And you can also check what kind of security measures those places are going to have. You can ask them, do they have a security guard? Do they have barred gates? Do they have other sort of measures that will make sure that you're safe? Because a lot of the time, a lot of thieves kind of know about these places, and they'll keep them kind of under the radar. Or, you know, these villas have big, beautiful windows, so you can have the view and all that stuff, or feel like you're in the jungle. So they can see your stuff. They know that travelers are maybe not always the most aware about this kind of stuff. So just be extra careful if you're going to decide to stay in a private place by yourself. There's just, yeah, those few things that you want to kind of keep out for. But I do think staying at a hostel or some sort of hotel like that will be much better and much more fun for you, because you'll be able to, again, meet people, socialize, and make the most of your time. Oh, and most of those places are in more popular and busy areas, so you'll be able to find cheap food, groceries, all that kind of stuff around you. In terms of transportation, getting around, I highly recommend the Tracopa buses if you're going from San Jose to like the southern end of the country. They're great. I've never felt unsafe. You might get a few seedy people. Just try to not talk to them. I recommend sitting, or if you can get a choice of your seat, try to get close to the front where the driver is, and then you'll kind of know like everything's cool. Nobody will really bother you. You can actually pick your own seat if you download the application Passer. You can buy your ticket and everything from there, so that you can do it in advance. And then that way you don't have to worry about arriving at the bus station on time to get a ticket in time so it's not sold out. And you don't have to worry about talking to the person in the like super dark window that has like little breathing holes. Probably don't speak too much English. I'm not really sure. I've only spoken in Spanish to them. But you can barely hear them. It's just an awkward situation in general. So I do recommend the application. They do charge like a small commission. It's like another 500 to 1,000 colones more, but the convenience is kind of worth it. So yeah, you can use that for the Tracopa buses from San Jose, or from, well, for example, in my case, Quepos to San Jose and stuff like that, and you can actually pick your seat and everything. I have also used Uber quite a bit, mainly in San Jose, because in a lot of towns that are not in the city, it's not quite up to speed yet. And this is because there's just so many taxis and bus services that it's just not really necessary in the smaller towns. Like, for example, Manuel Antonio, it is getting a bit more common. I think there's about 4 Uber guys in total, and they're probably also pirate taxis, just FYI. So, not my favorite. I think the bus is more reliable in Manuel Antonio Quepos. But in San Jose, Uber is great. As always, be aware of your surroundings. If they offer you things like hand lotions or like weird sprays or any liquids, try to avoid it, just because I have heard some scary stories But oh yeah, and just make sure you know that he's going in the direction that's showing on the map, right? And other than that, I've used it many, many times, and I've never had any issues, nothing creepy, nothing weird. I've heard stories, but I haven't personally experienced anything. And I think to really experience something, it's either going to be really fluke, or, you know, you use it a lot and your chance of something happening is higher just because of the amount that you use Uber. But yeah, I've never had an issue, and it's great for getting around, a little bit cheaper than the red taxis in San Jose. But if you're ever uncomfortable, just get your hotel or your stay to call a red taxi, and it'll be much more reliable and calming, mentally calming. But yeah, never had an issue. You can also do transfer shuttles, which I don't have too much experience with, but I do know that they will get you from destination to destination, and you just buy one individual ticket, and it's like between $10 and $50 depending on where you're going or something like that. And you get a seat, and there's a bunch of other people, individuals in the bus with you. I think they only go to specific destinations. I'm gonna try to look up some names for companies and put them into the description. I think one is Intertrans. So I don't know. I'm gonna look it up for you guys because the top of my head's not working right now. So yeah, and then that's a much more cheap and another way to meet people. So it could be fun, and if you end up going to the same destination, hey, you might have a new lifelong friend, or at least a travel buddy. Oh, and it will be much cheaper than getting a private shuttle for yourself, because a lot of the times private shuttles will charge the rate for the distance. It doesn't really have too much to do with the amount of people you're with. So like if you're a couple, or if you're by yourself, or you're a family of 3, it's generally going to be the same price. It might change a little bit just because of like, I don't know, their rates. But yeah, private shuttles are always going to be the most expensive option, but they're also extremely convenient. Yeah, I've lots of good things to say about them. It's just not the cheapest option. Speaking of destinations, places that you are going to enjoy more would be the more popular places like Tamarindo, Santa Teresa, Monteverde, La Fortuna, Manantonio, Jaco, and Dominical. There are a few others, but these are like the main ones, and all of these places have hostels and lots of young people that you can kind of interact with and make friends and hang out at the beach with, go to bars and all that kind of fun stuff. So I would stick to the top destinations. I wouldn't go too far off the path, because otherwise you might find yourself feeling a bit lonely, and being lonely in a new country is not always the most settling feeling. And the further away you go from these places, the less likely it is that you'll find people who actually speak English. If English is your primary language and you don't know where you're going, what you're doing, it's better to stick to the beaten trail, if you know what I mean. One place I won't recommend for you guys to stay around too much would be in San Jose, especially walking around by yourself as a young girl, or a woman in general. Especially if you've got like a backpack and your things with you, because you could just turn one wrong corner and now you're all of a sudden in a seedy neighborhood, and you don't know if they're gonna maybe try to rob you or what kind of people you're gonna come across. San Jose is not always the safest. If you're going to like super touristic destinations like the Teatro Nacional, or, you know, if you're going on like a day tour, or you're going with a group to do something, that's much better. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good idea to be wandering around in San Jose by yourself, especially at nighttime, but that goes for anywhere really. Speaking of walking around at night, this is something you just want to avoid in general, especially in areas where you're not going to see too many people around. Like really, if you're not in a popular buzzing area, I would say avoid it altogether, just because if something does happen, there's not going to be anyone around to help you or even know that something is happening. So for example, if you're going to go out, say you're in Tamarindo or Santa Teresa, and all the people you've met are going to go out and stuff like that, that's fine. Go and do it. That will be great. But if you're somewhere like in a mountainous town, kind of in the middle of nowhere, walking around at night is a big no-no. Even just getting in Ubers and like going around in general at night in more lonely kind of areas, I wouldn't recommend, just because, you know, one corner off and the driver could take you away, or, you know, this all kind of comes back to common sense. But yeah, I wouldn't be wandering around too much at night. And that also brings me to the point of, like, the sun is gone at 6 p.m. every day all year. I mean, it adjusts a little bit, but there's no sun after that time, so it's considered nighttime pretty early. I'd say you're still okay to walk around until about 8 or 9 p.m. by yourself, depending on the area. Depending on the area, big underlines there. Just always be aware of what's going on around you. Again, don't go down streets that are too quiet. Try to stick to yourself if you are by yourself, right? But again, go back to the point of hopefully you will make friends along the way, because then, you know, you're safer with more people and you've got more people watching your back and everything like that. Some places that I would suggest to kind of avoid would be walking around on the beaches at night, going around and about any like bars and like kind of being around the corners there, just anywhere that seems lonely or that there could be someone hiding in bushes, etc., etc. Not to say that it's going to happen, but it's possible, and you might as well just avoid that altogether. And of course, that might sound like really common sense, but you just never know. When people are on vacation, they might not be thinking about that kind of stuff. And then, you know, there's always the people who are waiting for those people who are not thinking about that kind of stuff. So I just want to put it out there. So let's talk about guys in Costa Rica, men. Especially in beachy areas, they can be pretty creepy at times. And can be. They're not always like that, but they can be. And you're gonna find them trying to talk to you, trying to holler at you, trying to get your name, get your number, figure out what's going on with you, spend time with you. Honestly, if you're just really clear with them and just like show zero interest, they'll kind of get the point and like hopefully shoo. There's maybe a time that you'd have to, like, if you're sitting somewhere, like get up and move. But it's never really that bad. And like, honestly, telling them that you're married or you have a boyfriend or something like that, it's not gonna work. It just goes in one ear and out the other, honestly. And if you're wondering why, check out the Dating in Costa Rica video that I have made and you will find out something about that. And like, over the years, I've gotten pretty good at like a death stare, but it still doesn't seem to work. Like, I think guys are pretty impermeable to these kind of things. They just, if they see something that they want, they will be pretty persistent about it. Yeah, just be very clear with people. Like, just like say no. Don't even let them have a chance to sit down with you, because people just do that all the time here and it drives me crazy, and I don't know why they think that it's just like okay, but maybe I'm just very unsociable also. But yeah, just be very clear with people, like, I'm here enjoying my time by myself. Please let me have that. Go away. Otherwise, you'll end up having to spend the entire afternoon with someone that you don't want to be with. Also, don't be surprised, like, if you give them your name or if you try to tell them that you have Facebook or anything like that, they will find you, and them and all of their boyfriends are gonna find you too. So like, if you come here, don't be surprised. Like, you meet a couple people and all of a sudden, boom, you've got a million Facebook friend suggestions. Yeah. On that note, if you guys don't want that kind of attention, something that you really should pay attention to is what you're wearing. Obviously, if you don't want a bunch of guys ogling at you, try to dress more modestly. Maybe that won't always work because you're so pretty in your face anyways, but yeah. And it can also be a challenge because it's so hot here. You don't want to wear too much clothing. But it helps with, you know, the staring at least. And, or just take a moment and enjoy the moment of fame, right? If they want to stare, that's them. But it does get annoying after a while. So try not to let it bother you too much. And just practice your death stare. If anybody, while you're here, tries to offer you a ride, especially guys, you know, It could be one of the pirate taxis, which are the ones that are usually like unlicensed and their car is like half falling apart. Or even a red taxi, or just any car at all. If it stops and tries to give you a ride, it can seem so amazing. Like, you don't want to wait those like 15, 20 minutes for the bus to come to get to the beach or wherever you're going. Think twice about that, because even I've been in the situation where I stupidly say yes because I think I know the taxi guy. I mean, I did know him I've seen him around a lot. And, you know, I'm waiting to get down to the beach at the bus stop, and it's a red taxi. He stops, he says, "Come on, I'll give you a ride." Okay, cool. Get in. And basically, he gave me a free ride just so that he could like stare at me and get a few minutes to talk to me. And it's just kind of like, what are you really exchanging a free ride for at the end of the day? Plus, you can't really trust them. You know, if they're not working, if they're not on the clock, if they're not putting on the, whatever it's called, the Maria, which is like the counter, you know, they're no longer doing their job, and they're now doing something that's, you can consider it creepy, because they're trying to give you a ride just to get something out of you. So yeah. And also, to bring that note up, if you do get into a taxi and they don't tell you the price before you get in, especially the pirate taxis, they might try to charge you more than necessary. So ask them before you get in. But that's even if you have the decision that you want to get in, because I don't really recommend it. They're not really traceable if something does happen. Yeah, or at least know exactly where you're going so that you can be very firm about that, and make sure that there's handles on the doors, because a lot of the times they're broken, and you don't want to be in a situation where you have to like be reaching out the window to open the door to get out to escape a situation that you're not comfortable with. But yeah, it's better just to not get into cars of strangers. And I feel like that does go back to the common sense, but sometimes convenience wins over common sense. So it's just something to bring up and to consider. Don't go around with your valuables anywhere. Really, if you're staying somewhere that has a safe, leave your stuff there, especially because you're going to be alone. There's not going to be someone watching your stuff, especially if you're going to the beach. The best advice I've ever received is take some pictures of your passport. I've used it on multiple occasions. I don't bring my passport almost anywhere unless it's like super important that I do. It's way better. It just stays here safe. Haven't lost it yet, even though it has grown quite a bit of mold from the humidity. Honestly, just leave your important stuff at home or in your safe at your hotel or your hostel, because you won't need it. You don't need that much cash. Bring what you need for the day for your beers, drinks, snacks, whatever you're having. And that's it. Otherwise, it's a little bit more risky, obviously, no matter where you are. That's the same situation. But especially if you're traveling around by yourself and you happen to leave your bag somewhere for a second, or just anything like that. Just don't trust people with your valuables ever. And that even comes down to like, even if you do make friends here, like, still be careful with them. Like, you know, they're still gonna be friends and hopefully trustworthy people, but just because you've met them recently, still have a little bit of wariness, just because you're not 100%, right? Sometimes you think you can trust people when you really can't. So say you are going out on a night in the town with your friends for drinks and fun, or even some guy or someone that you met, whatever. The biggest thing I can not stress enough is don't wander away from your group. You know, as soon as you do that, who knows what conditions you are in? Who knows what conditions they are in? I've known groups to go to another bar, leave, you know, just kind of disappear. Or you, as the person, to disappear in a weird way, you know? Basically what happens, you're going out, you're gonna have so much fun, you meet a local guy, he's gonna give you all the magic, you're gonna dance all night, have lots of drinks, make it super fun. Do not leave your friends. Do not do it. You know, this is when silly things happen. Silly mistakes. And I mean, yes, okay, there's people that you can trust sometimes. A lot of the time. But most times, this guy's gonna end up saying, let's go to a cabina. And no, that's not his apartment. No, that's not a nice place. It's literally a motel to do that. And it will be that, and bye. And okay, maybe that's your thing, but just be aware of that. Tell your friends where you're going. And maybe, I don't know, for me, that's never been my thing, but I've seen it happen a lot, and the rest of their friends are just like, well, where is this person? They just disappeared. So make sure other people are always aware of your whereabouts. And yeah, just putting it out there, sexually transmitted diseases are really, really rampant here. So just be aware of what you're doing. And I guess that also gets to the point of don't get so drunk or drugged up that you are no longer in control, because this is when people have the opportunity to take advantage of you, or you get lost. Bad things will just happen. So if you are going to get into that situation, make sure you're in a safe place and with safe people. So coming down to being in contact with people or other people knowing your whereabouts and stuff like that, you most definitely should get a SIM card while you're here traveling by yourself, so that way you can just be in contact with everyone whenever you need to, and have maps. Yeah, just access to internet in general, because it's pretty important at the end of the day if you don't really know where you're going, or if you plan on spending lots of time by yourself and stuff like that. So this is super easy. All you have to do is go into town, or even lots of supermarkets sell the prepaid cards. This is a little more complicated if you get the prepaid card from the superstore, because they won't set it up for you right then and there. You have to call. But if you go to the actual store, the Movistar or the Claro store, or even in the airports, usually before you even leave the airport, you can buy it and have them set it up. But if not, go to the store, they'll set it up, they'll ask you which package you want. Usually it's like a certain amount for a certain amount of days kind of thing. And it's fairly cheap. And that way you are connected at all times. I highly recommend downloading the application WhatsApp, giving your new number to all your friends and family that you want to be in contact with, and use the WhatsApp live location function. This thing is great. Like if you're ever unsure of where you're going, or if you're on your way somewhere and you want to make sure that your friends or your family know where you are, you just send them your live location and they can literally watch the map and you traveling along it. I love this thing. I love this feature and highly recommend it for any girls traveling alone by themselves, because you are always allowing someone to see where you are and that you are safe. All right, so this is my final point. It's a little bit random, but I think it will be helpful to many ladies traveling, whether you're alone or not, is to bring extra feminine hygiene products. Why? Because you just bought a brand new white bikini, or you've got some really gorgeous white shorts, and you're doing every and all kinds of activities, and all of a sudden, boom, now you're desperately looking for those products that you didn't bring. I've seen it so many times, especially on the catamaran that I used to be on all the time. Like, just always bring 1 or 2 extra products just in case. Because of the heat, the pressure, and all this stuff, nature does its thing. So avoid awkward situations and bring some extra products along with you anywhere. Just have it in your bag ready to go. Especially because a lot of the excursions that they have here are run by guys, and they're not usually going to have that kind of thing readily available. And it is, well, at least I've seen some girls get pretty uncomfortable having to ask that to a group of guys. So it's better to just be prepared than to have any uncomfortable situations. All right, guys, so those are my points on solo travel for females. And kind of just in general, you know, I feel like a lot of these things can be applied for other situations, not just girls by themselves. But let's just do a quick takeaway so that you guys can have a quick summary. So you guys want to go to popular areas so that you can stay around the hubbub, you can meet more people, you can do all of the things at the touch of your hand, you know, shopping, restaurants, the beach, all this kind of stuff all together in one place. Stay in hostels where you can meet like-minded travelers and have more fun in general. Everything is more fun with a group of people. Unless being alone is totally your thing, but you'll feel safer and you'll have a better experience meeting people. Making a group of friends is also going to allow you the opportunity to have a little more freedom. You'll be able to go to the beach and not worry about your bag sitting there. You'll have someone to cheers your beers or your pina coladas with and take your Instagram pictures. I think that's kind of important. Don't wander around at night, especially in like areas that are pretty empty. If it's more popular and there's a lot of people around, okay, maybe it's not the end of the world, but just always be aware of your surroundings, whether it's day or night. But yeah, don't go around into like lonely places at night. Bring emergency items in your bag, in your fanny pack, whatever you've got. Ladies, we know that things can happen at times. Don't get too blasted without knowing where you are or where you're going or what you're doing, because this is when you will lose control completely and could put yourself into very unsafe situations. Get a SIM card so that you can be in contact with your friends and family and let people know where you're going so that you have a sense of safety as well with that. You can take photos of your passport so that you don't have to carry them around, and always carry around as little cash as possible, only what you need for that moment. And finally, use WhatsApp live locations so that people will know where you are and what you're doing and where you're going. Anyways, guys, if you have any questions about solo female travel here in Costa Rica, please do feel free to leave them down in the comment section. I will read them and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And if you have any other tips, please do feel free to leave them down there as well so that other viewers can check them out and use that as their list of things to be aware of. All right, guys, let me know if you liked this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will be seeing you real soon. Thanks so much, and yeah, ciao!